few years into my career as a motion designer, I was interviewing someone to collaborate with. I was evaluating them, but they looked at my work and said something that made me feel completely exposed. I had taught myself how to animate, and in one offhand comment, they had exposed a gap that I didn't even know I had. I'll explain why that stuck with me. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to make this video. Here are 6 things I wish someone had told me before I became a motion designer. Number 1, there's more to motion than making things move. When I was starting out, I just assumed, like most beginners, that the goal was to make things look cool. It turns out it's not about having the right plugins or using the right effects or having the flashiest transitions. The real purpose of motion design is to communicate something. It could be an explainer video, or a title sequence, or a medical animation explaining a diagnosis to a patient. Whatever it is, if the audience walks away not understanding what you were trying to say, it doesn't matter how impressive it looked. You failed. Good motion can actually be subtle. It can almost go unnoticed, just like great design sometimes does. When something is designed so well that you don't even think about the design because it just works so flawlessly, that's success. The goal is movement with purpose, not just movement for its own sake. This means motion design isn't just a technical skill. It's about communication, psychology, understanding how people learn and process information. Learn to think like that, and your work will be in a completely different category than people that are just chasing cool. 2, a portfolio matters more than a degree, and case studies matter more than a reel. I got hired at my dream job creating educational animations at a healthcare company, not because of my degree or what my animations looked like, but because of how I presented my work. In my interview, we didn't talk about my credentials. The hiring manager walked through my animations and asked me specific questions about why I made the design decisions that I made. My answers and the case studies that explain this on my website that got me the initial interview are what got me the job. A demo reel shows what you can do. A case study shows how you think. And increasingly, especially in the age of AI, the thinking is what employers are actually hiring for. The other thing that case studies do is show the human behind the work. What motivated it? What problem were you trying to solve? What life experience or emotion shaped your approach? That's not soft stuff. It's what makes you irreplaceable. 3, learn the fundamentals properly. I taught myself motion design through self-directed projects and random YouTube tutorials. For years, I was using concepts like timing and spacing and using the graph editor without fully understanding them. I thought I was doing fine. Here's where that moment where a person I was interviewing made a comment that made me feel totally exposed comes in. He looked at our team's animations and mentioned that a lot of the easing looked the same. He wasn't wrong. I had developed a default, a habit, without even realizing it. That kind of thing is hard to catch yourself. Then I took a course specifically focused on intentional movement and learned how to actually use the graph editor to control how animations ease in and out. And it was like a switch flipped. My animations suddenly had a quality I hadn't been able to achieve before, because I'd just been approximating fundamentals that I never actually learned. I also took the time to properly learn the 12 principles of animation. When I first started animating, I thought that these didn't apply to the type of work I was creating. The principles of animation were originally created by early Disney animators, and what I was doing was modern motion design. But I was wrong. They're not old-fashioned. They're the reason some animations feel alive and others feel flat. Concepts like anticipation, follow-through, and overlapping action can give your work the illusion of life. If you haven't deliberately studied these, you're probably using them inconsistently without knowing it. Learn them intentionally. It'll save you years. Design is the foundation of any animation, and without a strong foundation, well, animating bad design is like polishing a turd. It's still not pretty. So learn the fundamentals of design. Things like hierarchy, proportion, proximity, repetition, alignment, grids, contrast, typography, and color. Because animating bad design doesn't make it better. 4, don't animate things that are over your head yet. For my first animation job, I was hired by a professor at my university to create an animated video for Italian students for all of the vocab of things you could do in a house. I decided to animate a character walking into the house and going down the stairs. I thought I was challenging myself in a good way. What I didn't know is that walk cycles and realistic character movement are genuinely hard to do well, and there are tools and techniques for this that I hadn't learned yet. So I just figured it out on my own. And the result quietly announced to anyone that watched that this was made by someone who didn't quite know what they were doing. Over time, as my skills improved, I could see what I hadn't been able to see before. Now this video makes me cringe. The lesson isn't don't challenge yourself. It's that client projects aren't the place to figure something out from scratch. Get proper instruction first. Use passion projects to experiment. A simple fix, by the way, is that I could have cut to an above the waist shot. A character bouncing reads as walking. Then you don't need to show and animate the legs at all. Sometimes the smartest animation is the one that solves a problem without creating a new one. 5. Working for someone might feel different than you'd expect. I got my dream job right out of grad school. I'd studied physiology because I love science, and creative technology and design because I'd always been a creative person. And eventually I realized I could combine them both, animate science topics to help people understand them. Getting hired by a healthcare company to do exactly that felt like everything was clicking into place. About a year in, I got an itch that I didn't understand. It wasn't that I wasn't animating enough. I was animating all day. I actually remember my index finger feeling sore from clicking so much. But something felt missing. My first reaction was that something was wrong with the job, but eventually I figured out what it actually was. When you work for someone else, the work isn't entirely yours. Coworkers weigh in, clients ask you to make the logo bigger. People with no design training make calls that affect the final result because they're the ones paying. And when you hand something in, it belongs to the company, not to you. My solution was to do passion projects on my own time. The first one started small. I made personalized animated GIFs as Christmas presents for my family. Then I made a series of animated animal loops for Instagram, each with a caption that was a fun fact. Someone saw them and asked me to teach a class, which led to a whole other side of my career. I'm not telling you this to be inspirational. I'm telling you because I started those projects to scratch an itch that I didn't fully understand, and they became something real. The other thing that helps when other people are involved in the project is learning how to communicate your design reasoning to your coworkers or clients. When you explain why you made the design decisions that you made and connect it back to the goal of the project, it helps people trust you more. They ask you for fewer pointless revisions, and they give you more room. You won't always win the argument, but you'll have it less often. Which brings us to number 6. Soft skills are part of the job. Communication, time management, meeting deadlines, these aren't extras. They're core to doing the work at a professional level. And they're things that a lot of people getting into motion design don't think about until they're in a situation where it already matters. Here's the thing about mistakes. You can't avoid them all. Learning takes time, and the first things you make will probably be bad. I know mine were. Looking back at old work and cringing is actually a good sign. It means you've grown. But some mistakes you can skip. The ones that come from not knowing what you don't know. The ones I made because I was teaching myself in isolation without any structure. I've taught motion design in person at the University of Colorado and online for over 7 years. The thing I see most consistently with students that take the structured approach versus the YouTube tutorial path is speed. They get good faster and they build the right habits from the beginning instead of having to correct the wrong ones later. If you want to take the more direct route, I have a brand new beginner course. It covers fundamental After Effects skills, but also how to think like a motion designer. It includes 7 real-world projects that build into a final explainer animation. It's what I wish I had when I was starting out. If you're curious, check it out. The link is in the description.